What's going on, everybody? Welcome back into Debate Night. We are back in our normal format after Hunter, Gary, and myself joined the Tour Life group last week. We had a hectic week, but we're back, and we got some things to discuss that have happened over the last few weekends, and as well, we're getting close to two majors back to back pretty soon here. So things are starting to rev up. We're fully in Europe mode. And we're going to talk all things disc golf going on right now. Got some fan topics. Should be a great show. Man of the people.
Yeah, excited to be back. This major is kind of like the last episode's comment section. No one really is going to care about it a couple weeks from now. So I'm not even going to bring up any of the comments from the last episode. No one even remembers it.
That's a really good point. Wow, that speaks volumes. Hunter, what do you think about last 2 weeks ago's episode?
Was I even on it?
I don't think you were.
Yeah, I was gonna say I walked down
Who
here.
Who knows? Who really remembers, Hunter?
That's true. I walked down here and turned my computer on because it
spit up some dust.
We lost the power at some point in the last month since I've been down here, and I was like, I don't know the last time I turned this thing on. It's been a long time. Because last week, obviously, I was in the studio, and the week before that, I think I wasn't on the show. I don't know.
Yeah, it's been a minute. Shout out to the Macintosh for even firing up, for even rising to the occasion.
She did great.
Dustin's back with us. Very timely because there's, Dustin, ever since you said your little warning message about lightning, it's been really pertinent in our area recently. I mean, we're getting lightning storms like every night. And so every time I see a storm nearby, I hear your voice in my head and I go, what would Dustin do in this situation? Get out of here. Get to the car.
Indeed. And I think I was here last episode. I think I won if I'm not mistaken. So
return. You have been
making a return.
You can remember.
Yeah,
no, it pointless.
Didn't happen. If a tree fell in the woods, nobody saw it. And then Hannah is also with us today. How's it going, Hannah?
Yeah, excited. I'm good. I'm excited to be back. Very tired. 9-month-old is teething, so it's been a fun few nights. But this episode should be really awesome. I'm excited for the topics.
Yes, teething children, that is life to the fullest, no doubt about that. All right, let's talk some Europe. Let's get into it. So, first topic, European players made a strong showing at Crokol before ultimately losing to the American Ben Callaway. Shout out to the commentators. I thought they were going to get heavy biased towards the end there, and they didn't. So respect to them. I want to know, what's your opinion on the progression of European MPO players over the last decade or so? Obviously, we get certain glimpses of the full field when we go to this stretch. Do you think we would have dramatically more successful European players if it was more feasible for them to tour in the U.S. consistently, such as players like Niklas have been able to do? Do we have talent kind of getting trapped over there in a bubble? What are your thoughts, Brodie?
Yeah, I mean, I think 100%. The phrase "train with the best to be the best" is there for a reason. I think being able to put yourself around players that are better than you will be able to highlight your weaknesses that you might not see elsewhere. I mean, you can look at it if you're a local pro or if you're playing in MA3 or in amateur divisions. If you only look at the bubble that you're competing in, you might think to yourself, "Oh man, I'm really in a good spot," and then you go. What is it? Big, small fish, big pond, big fish, big pond. So whatever the fish and pond saying is, you start really learning about all the things that you might not have realized because you're just playing against players that you were better than. So I'm not surprised seeing the growth of Niklas when he came onto the stage. It was kind of clear that he was going to be an up and coming, a name that we were to look for. There's some other guys in Europe that we thought maybe would make that leap and they haven't yet. Now, is that because a lack of touring in the United States? Potentially, but we also have seen some guys tour in the United States and haven't made the leap like Niklas has. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that, some people's ceilings are what they are. And Niklas is a top 5 player, potentially a top 3 player, potentially for some time. It's not, I don't think he's a someone that's just I'm sick right now. I'm sorry, guys. So I'm really bad with phrases, and I'm really bad right now. Flash in the pan. Is that what?
Yeah,
got it.
Fish in the pan. Fish in the pot.
Fish in the pan. But yeah, no, I think having better competition around you will ultimately make you better.
Yeah, I mean, and it's totally fair to say that we can't just act like what Niklas has done is some kind of guarantee, but there are a lot of players over there. Hunter, what are your thoughts?
Well, yeah, I was actually just in preparation for this. I looked back at the 2015 European Open, which would be a decade ago now. And when you look at it, like, it was very US heavy top half of the field. And it was all your typical names, the Paul Macbeth, Ricky, Will Schustrick, Jeremy Colling. There was 2 Europeans that snuck into there, and they were both the 2 that kind of, we'll all remember, KJ Naibo and Seppo Payu. And they were the ones kind of in the mix. And you had more Americans before you got to like the first European that at least I don't recognize as regularly being over in the US. That could be incorrect. And he was like 16 strokes out. And so over the last decade, I think that is no longer the case anymore. It's almost like when we get over to Europe, I don't think it's necessarily a fuller field. I think that these 2 majors we're about to see is probably like this Worlds will probably be one of the fullest fields we've ever seen, because you're going to have the European talent and you're going to have most of the US talent, at least most of the relevant US talent over there. But what I think is capable of happening now is before it went over and it got easier for the US players because you basically just took the field out and replaced them with weaker players. Nowadays, I feel like it's almost just a net even for these earlier events where you have the top, Gannon, AB, Isaac, Ricky, Calvin, you have all those guys over there. And then the lower half of the field that didn't travel is getting replaced with equally as talented players over there. I think that's we're seeing guys emerge out of it, but I don't think that Gannon Burr's over there, right? I think Niklas Antila is the top. I think it's feasible enough now that the top players are over in the US, but there are the Mauri Vilmans, the Lori Lettinens, the Jakub Simarads over there where on the right weekend, yeah, it could be their weekend, but every weekend's not going to be their weekend like the Gannon Burrs.
Yeah, we've certainly seen some of those top U.S. players like AB and Gannon this past weekend. You mess up a little bit and you get gobbled up and get shot down the leaderboard. That's something you might not have seen in the past. Dustin, what have your thoughts been on the European MPO division over the last decade or so?
Yeah, speaking of last decade, Simon Lizotte got his first national tour win in 2015. So kind of like an app thing. And he's had 7 Elite Series wins, obviously in the second win of his career over the last 3 seasons. But really the only other European MPO player that comes close is Niklas. He's won, I think, 5 events in the last 2 seasons and is really the only consistent guy out there. I mean, after that, everyone else is kind of a flash in the pan type guy. I mean, Jakub Simarad, he was like kind of consistently placing the top 25 quite often last year and did well at Krokol and did well again at Krokol this year, but he's also had a lot of misses. And then you look at someone like Vino Makala, he's been kind of up there in the standings at a top 5 at USDGC last year and, had other top 20s and was kind of in the mix, but, wasn't anything super persistent. But then after those guys, you're starting to get into like the 40th and 50th ranked players in the standings for a season. And the consistency is just not there. Like Jesse Nieneman had a couple of events the last 2 seasons where he kind of popped off, but nothing really consistent. Same could be said for Mauri Vilman, Lori Lettinen. Like there's all these guys that have had big moments, but not been able to string them together. And touring consistently, yeah, iron sharpens iron, but Jakub and Vino have been on tour pretty regularly for a few seasons now. We have not really seen them in contention for wins other than Jakub with the Krokol Opens. These other names, though, haven't been exposed to touring nearly as much, and maybe if they did, they could grow and do better. But we're starting to get a lot more exposure to the region. They're getting their first Worlds. They're getting more media, more live coverage. It's starting to fester up, and we've already seen FPO really blossom when it comes to Europe. So, yeah, the hope is that MPO can maybe get to the same degree.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Hannah, wrap it up. What do you think?
Yeah, so I kind of agree with some of the points that have already been said. And I'm glad that Hunter pointed out about KJ Naibo and Seppo Payu, because that's part of one of my opinions as well. Is like, I think since in the decades since when they were at their best, we've seen an uptick in high level talented players in the MPO field in Europe. But it's because of KJ Naibo and Seppo Payu and the likes of them that the Niklases of today even probably exist. They brought a lot of recognition to the European side of European disc golf because they were the top guys that weren't American that were competing very well in the European tournaments. But I think if we wanted to look at the current MPO, I think we kind of have to look at the current FPO field to get insight as to if touring more for the Europeans in the US would have impact in their success. So if we look at the relatively small pay gap between the MPO and the FPO, it allows for a lot more comparatively larger portion of the FPO to get a better payout if they tour in the US versus the MPO, because they just come over and they get swallowed up by the MPO field in the US. and they're almost better off pursuing another sport. Like there are many in Europe who have European only leagues where you can get more money than you could by just being an elite disc golfer. So if the money was better, then I think we would see a lot more success from the European field, and they'd have more resources to come over and compete well. But until that happens, I just don't think we're going to see that much more success from them.
Yeah, it's tough to say because, I mean, like you're saying, I mean, you do kind of have to feel like you can earn enough, and it's not like there's so many manufacturers that are getting behind people enough to sustain, staying in the States, and it is a big disadvantage only being able to pop in and not being able to, like, it's it's not like when you have, a lot of like other sports, like think golf or tennis, where you might have a player who, if they're playing most of if they were touring in the US, they would just live in the US most of the year. Like that would be where they would live. I mean, there are even NBA players, like during the season, they're going to live in that hometown, and being able to establish at least some kind of base there, it does make a difference. But obviously we have also seen other players, like Dustin mentioned, that have been playing consistently over here and haven't exactly turned into the next Niklas. So it's fair to say that he is a little bit of an outlier there. But no doubt the talent has gotten a lot better, and I think it is making these majors a lot more exciting because we have the potential for 2 majors coming up to see a European champion that's maybe outside of what we'd expect, and I think that could be a lot of fun to watch. All right, let's talk about this playoff at Crocol, because I think this was probably the most noteworthy thing about this event, other than just the scenery of it, because it's just fun to look at each year. So if you didn't see it, basically the playoff between 3 players was meant to be hole 18 repeating. Problem with that, even though it was a par 5, so with multiple landing zones and OB, so just hearing about it, you think, oh, that sounds perfect. But the problem is it turned into a very boring set of stock shots, to the point where it looked like it could go on forever. Ended up lasting 5 holes. So what we want to know here is, was there anything exciting to be found in this playoff? And then what kind of power should a TD have to make audibles in this scenario? Would changing plans after the playoff begins ever be fair? Because there was a lot of mention from the commentary team about that. We recently had a PGA tournament where a pin position was changed, but that was probably something that was already discussed and probably mentioned to the players even beforehand, we can assume. But Hunter, how do you think this should have been handled?
I think the only way to handle this is to not have done it in the first place. So was there anything exciting to be found? Let's start there. I think there was nothing other than the fact that we're going into a playoff. The first like two times we played it, that was kind of exciting, right? Because time 1, you have Maori Villman go OB, and you're like, oh, this could be electric. Like it might end right here. You felt the pressure of, oh, is Callaway going to get up and down? So on and so forth. Around time 3, all that's gone. So watching it live, no, there was not that much more exciting to happen. You just knew it was going to come down to exactly what it came down to, a missed short putt. But the story of this is exciting. This is something where you'll probably be years ago talking about, remember that one year at Crocol, they went to hole 18 and played it 5 times in a row, and these guys just couldn't mess up, yada, yada, yada. That's the type of stuff that, like, absence, like when it gets farther and farther in the back, I could see that being something that some old disc golf guys telling you the story about, and you have no idea how boring it was. Because how do we know that that's not what Barry Schultz and Ken Climo were dealing with back in the day? We have no clue, because all we have are the stories. So I think that could be the exciting part. What power should TDs have to make audible in this scenario? None, because at that point, there's a lot of bias that could happen, because now you know who's in the playoff. If you all of a sudden go to a 4-hand hole or a hyzer flip hole or whatever, that can't be done. What's interesting is it sounded like the TD actually didn't have any control over this anyways, because from what I understand, the TD wanted like holes 13, 14, and something else to be the playoffs, and the Pro Tour said no, 18 repeating's the playoff. So I don't think you can change rules. It has to be set in stone before. That's what the PDGA already has. I think it has to stay there because you don't know who's in a playoff at that point. Yeah. So it's fair to everyone, versus now it's all of a sudden, oh, our golden child's in the playoff, we're going to go to his favorite hole.
I was wondering if you were going to bring up the Climo Schultz thing, because it's kind of does drive that point home where people
I've
talk
watched
about
the USDGC playoff where I'm like,
people talk about that like it was legend, and it probably was basically what we just described, except at a major and 2 bigger players. Like it was definitely a narratives game there. Dustin, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, you can't change the plan once you've already started. I mean, that's a competitive integrity issue. Like, deviating from that is definitely a problem. But I just think there should have been some foresight that this was a bad like a bad playoff rule. Yeah, sure, you're always going to have some excitement and drama because it is just a playoff and people feel more pressure and people are more prone to make mistakes or whatever. Like, that's just excitement. But the course didn't do this playoff any favor. I don't think 18 is that great of a hole, just in general. Like, if it was kind of a hole in the middle of the course, I wouldn't mind it so much. But being a finishing hole, I don't think it's good at that either. Like, it was pretty much 50% birdie or better for the entire tournament. I mean, it was a very soft hole. It was one of the top 5 easiest holes the first day of the tournament and kind of remained on the high end of scoring throughout it. It seemed to me, like, I'm obviously not a pro player, but it just seemed like a chip putt and you're done. And really the only pressure you put on yourself is if you give yourself a long putt or something like that with a bad approach shot. But again, that's not really anything to do with hole design. That's just to do with like whether the player executes or not on kind of a basic thing. So yeah, if you're going to make it a playoff hole, you just can't do it over and over again. I think there are very few holes that we have in our game that I would be okay with watching on repeat in a playoff, like maybe 17 at USDGC, 16 with the bunker rule at European Open. Like, yeah, you play that a series of times. Like, I think that's pretty exciting, but you got to at least have like a 2 to 3 hole rotation, in my opinion. I do like sudden death over aggregate as far as excitement goes, but yeah, this was just really poor. I don't get why you did this. And even last year, the hole kind of played pretty easy. So I feel like they should have seen this coming if it ever got to a playoff. And it just took the win out of the sails. What could have been really epic when you got 3 guys fighting for a win. By the time you get to the 4th or 5th playthrough, it's just like, I mean, I'm just ready for it to be over at that point.
Yeah, it does feel like by setting a rotation, you really avoid this problem because it's like, well, one of these holes is going to be interesting. You know, even if we thought 18 was going to play better, you have a backup plan. Hannah, what do you think should have been done or could be done in the future here?
Yeah, so I guess we're kind of all sort of in agreement on this. It's tough to give a TD should have power over their event, but in a lot of ways, power over that, like, it brings in the question of, is it fair and is it not fair? And it's not fair, truthfully, to just backtrack it, even if it's what the players in the playoffs want to do. Like, that still would not be fair. And so I kind of agree with what Dustin and Hunter are saying. I just think that maybe in the future, we just don't set an easy hole as the repeating playoff hole. I love the hole. I love the course, but it just wasn't it. And we've all kind of said that before. There were several moments where I would be in the other room. My husband's like, oh, I think Yakub just went OB. And then it's like, just kidding. He's totally safe. And so, like, that does take some of the wind out of the sails as far as the excitement goes. But I love playoffs as a whole. And I love that it was a 3-way playoff. At one point, it could have been 5 or 6-way playoff, and that would have been super cool. And I think that regardless of the optics of the playoff, we can't take away the win from Ben. Like, in the end, he stuck it out through the grueling extra hour and a half or whatever that they played to do this playoff, and he made his putt that he had to make to win. My personal favorite moment of the playoff was actually when Essa and Brian cut down to the grounds, and there was somebody from PDJ Europe there with this whole group of like the best players in the world, and they're just all sitting there in the grass, just chilling, waiting to see how it all plays out. And he asked Yuli questions and Gannon and other questions, and it was very insightful and entertaining, and it allowed for a nice breather from the monotony of, here's the 10-minute golf cart ride back to reset things. So
yeah,
to me, that kind of made the playoff as a whole.
It was a rare, like, smart move from the broadcast team, and I found it really funny that it took like an hour and a half of extra time for them to be like, wait a second, what if hear me out, what if we tried to throw something in here, we throw in a little wrinkle, we go down and like talk to these players. Like, it took all that dead time for them to do that, but it was like a very rare victory for the broadcast team to like improvise.
They should have just left the mic with them, just let them
honestly just have them comment the rest
y'all
of
have
it.
fun for this one.
Yeah, because it was a good move. I mean, you see a giant group of players, like, you know, let's get something here as we ride this golf cart back up the hill and we get a drone shot of it again. I think I could navigate that hole, never being there. I know every square inch of it because I've seen all the drone coverage over and over again. Brodie, what do you think about this playoff debacle?
All right, so going through your questions, the first one, was there anything exciting to be found in the playoff? Answer to that is no. What kind of power should a TD have to make audibles? I think kind of going to like Dustin's point here, I think all that needs to be written ahead of time. I don't think you could just make audibles on the fly. I think there needs to be scenarios of, for example, weather. If something happens weather-wise, we need to change to this scenario. Or if something to the course happens, let's say the the green gets flooded or a tree falls down in the fairway and the hole 18's unplayable, there needs to be an audible in place of a scenario of like, okay, we're going to go to this hole. Other than that, I don't think you can just say, hey, this is starting, we're an hour in, guys, this is really boring. Let's change it up. I just don't think that's fair. So I think, unfortunately, like Hunter said, the mistake was made at the beginning, not really much to do. I would disagree with Hunter. I don't think this is going to be a memorable playoff tournament. I think it's going to kind of go into the same vault as I think it was the Isaac Eagle playoff, where they played like the same hole 5 or 6 times in a row, where it's like, yeah, maybe some diehard fans will remember that, but most probably just won't ever remember it. And I think this really kind of just shows the biggest issue with disc golf that I've been saying for a very, very long time. Disc golf is too easy. We are looking at a playoff, and instead of looking to see which player cracks and isn't able to execute a very difficult shot, we are looking to see which player misses a free throw, which player completely just botches a super easy shot. None of these shots, to Dustin's point, none of these shots were very difficult. It was Heiser into, I mean, we saw Jakob throw an abysmal shot. Mm-hmm. And Brian even thought it was OB, and the guy was like, nope, he's well in bounds. It's like, okay, there's no way, if that shot's in bounds, there's no way you can throw your second shot OB. He missed his landing spot by 150 feet. So what this showed us is the problem what I think disc golf has right now with a lot of holes is you can throw terrible shots and still make birdie. This was not a good designed hole in the sense of the eagle was pretty much out of it. I think if you go back and look, I think there was only 2 or 3 eagles the entire tournament, one being a throw-in from Ezra. The others were basically guys that were out of the tournament already and just playing super aggressive. So it wasn't a good, risk reward hole at all. And when you're watching sports, you don't want to see, oh, we're watching the 100 meters. Which guy is going to cramp up and not going to finish the 100-meter race? Oh, we're watching swimming. Which person's going to take water in and start drowning? You don't want to see that.
That's peril. Yeah.
You want to see good performance. And when you have a hole like this, it really turns into, okay, who is all of a sudden like
who's going to do something really stupid?
Not just stupid, like terrible. And we got exactly that. We got someone missing a really easy putt. Right. And that's why the moment at the end was lackluster. Yeah. It was always going to be lackluster unless someone threw in for eagle. Mm-hmm. That was the only thing that would have won this playoff over.
That's true. It makes me feel very bad. Well, not very bad, but because Ben still is a Pro Tour winner.
Well, Ben doesn't care. I can tell you that right now. Ben doesn't give a rip.
I felt bad for the optic of it because all of a sudden you had this whole weekend of incredible golf. He made like clutch putts. Obviously, the last round he only shot 3 under, but he did exactly what he needed to do. There was all these big moments. And then when it comes down to it, it all of a sudden felt like the easiest win of all time because it's like, it turned into, I mean, the way you just put it is exactly right of like, who's going to cramp first. Like, that's what it felt like of like, whatever we're about to watch is not going to be impressive because it has to be a mistake that leads to a win. No one can go and win this themselves unless they threw a very stupid shot of like trying to go for the eagle, which would have just throwing yourself out of the tournament.
And he executed 15 shots in a row. The problem is we all expected him to execute 15 shots
because he had already thrown them and they weren't changing.
But this is a hole that every player plays and they're expecting to make a birdie. And if they don't, they did something terribly, terribly wrong. And I just saw too, I just want to make this point because I don't even know if we're going to talk about it. I just saw some people complaining about how there's like OB on some of these holes at the Rockstar. Shout out to the Rockstar. Where OB's inside of circle 1. And I see some people complaining about that, being like, hey, let's make circle 1 inbounds again. And this is exactly my point. No, if literally, even if you made 3/4 of circle 1 inbounds and the other 1/4 out of bounds, if you're throwing a shot 250 feet and in, that is way easier than what golfers have to do on the majority of holes. Do you understand that? Like golfers, they look at a pin. If they go 10 feet left of the pin, they're in the water or they're in a bunker. Like there are times where they're hitting shots that are 300 plus, 400 plus feet away. That's how far they're hitting shots into greens. And if they're 10 feet left of the pin, they're dead. And here in disc golf, we want to play la la land of where we're throwing shots from 250 feet. We've got a disc in our hand, which is a lot easier to control than hitting a ball with a club. And we want to say that players should be able to throw a disc 33 feet in any direction by the basket. And this is just the big problem with disc golf right now. They don't understand to push the sport forward. You have to make it more challenging. You have to demand more. Imagine if that green at the end was like half the size.
Yeah. Well, I think
playoff was electric was Masters. Go back a couple weeks and watch Masters and watch Paul Oman have to throw a 315-foot shot. Wasn't that far, but that green is so small. So
dude, Brodie, what if we go limbo style? We make that green smaller after every playoff hole. It just gets smaller and smaller, like limbo, man. What do you think about that?
Well, isn't that like Fall Guys or something?
Yeah,
exactly. I did thought of like if only the basket was in the FPO pin, where it's like they were going for eagle every time. So it's like your second shot was getting you the putt. Then at least Yakub would have had like a 200-foot throw-in attempt when he sawed his off instead of just a chip shot for his birdie.
And some people get so fired up about like the OB, but a lot of times their reasoning is just they don't like artificial OB. So like if you're a croak hole 18 and you're designing that, the artificial OB already exists. So why not make it tighter? Like there's literally, it's not like you're introducing OB that didn't already exist. Just make it smaller.
I'm wondering if because that's a hole that was put in just for the tournament. That's why I was on the golf course. They ripped that hole from the golf course to put it in. I'm wondering if they thought more players are going for eagle when they were designing it. Like I think that's why the green was as big as it was. Is I think they were looking up thinking players are going to be tempted by this and go for it, and it just was wrong.
I think players. I kind of looked at the stats. I was gonna talk about this on Tour Life, but yeah, it looked like more players I just looked at the top 20, and it looked like more players in the top 20 the first few days played that hole not that well. Like there was more bogeys and doubles the first couple, and then they kind of figured out, hey, going for this makes no sense,
right?
Because I could get a bogey or a double. I can just assure myself an auto birdie if I just play safe. So
exactly.
That's the big problem with that is they made it to where the birdie was so easy, it made no sense to go for an eagle because you would lose a lot of strokes.
People definitely figured it out. All right. Well, let's talk about somebody who didn't find it so easy when it mattered most, and that's Ricky Wysocki. So after a disastrous drive on 18, Ricky extends his win drought even further, while another great player, Kristen Lott, once again fails to win, mostly due to her continued putting woes. So choose one word to define each of their seasons so far and explain why that word fits the narrative. What is the word you would use to describe Ricky's season so far and Kristen's season so far? Dustin.
So for Ricky, I'll go with persistent because I'm not reaching for high praise because he hasn't really landed a win yet this year, obviously, but he's still been pretty consistent. I feel like he's often landed himself in the top 10 on multiple occasions this season, has like 5 top 5 finishes, done well in the standings. There's even been a couple of tournaments where he started way behind, was able to grind his way back into a top 5 position. So I feel like he's been pretty persistent. He's had some big misses, don't get me wrong. PCS Open being a big one, Waco. You know, there's been a few tournaments where he's looked terrible, but I've also seen him make some comebacks. I've also seen him still finish pretty consistently. And really, the only like big ones for him was this tournament, and then he had the Ale Open in his hands as well and loses it to one by Niklas. So he's definitely had his chances, but overall, I think his season isn't that bad in the grand scheme of things. When it comes to Kristen, I struggle to find the word because what I was trying to say was just good but not great because we're used to her being so great. She's still finishing well, but she's not great. And so I put passable because she has not finished below 6th place since 2018 Worlds, except for the Disc Golf Festival last year, where she came 8th. That's insane consistency, and she's still keeping that up. She's just not getting the same wins and dominating like she used to, but she's still getting good finishes. She's still throwing the disc well as well. Like she's still leading the field in like fairway hits, park percentage, scrambling, doing well with getting the circuit regulation. But like you said, she just can't putt. She's 20th in C1X putting for the year when she was 6th last year, and she's down like 10%. And then at Crocal, she was at 43% from C1X. It's ridiculous. So yeah, she's definitely got yips. Her putting routine looks really weird. Like she's like repeatedly tapping. Like you can tell that there's something wrong there. But I'll say it's passable because she's still at least doing pretty well when it comes to like overall finishes.
Yeah. It's you know, tough to be crazy harsh there. Hannah, what words have you found?
Yeah, so the word that I wrote down for Kristen is glimpses, because the reality is, even with her woes, we've seen glimpses of greatness, but there's also been those glimpses of struggle as well. And it seemed like this week she was starting to feel more confident and happy on the course again after several off weeks. But unfortunately, the putting, like Dustin pointed out, it just wasn't there. She was 43% C1X for the weekend, which, if you look at the data, she would only have had to putt as good as Evelina's season average to win by a considerable margin, just to put that stat out there. But I also think it's important we give her the benefit of the doubt. And I'll say why, because she's been playing sick and injured the past few weeks in situations where a lot of people would have and did DNF for similar reasons. She also confirmed in her Instagram story today that an x-ray showed that her toe is indeed fractured. So she's been playing on a fractured toe every week for almost a month now. And so overall, I just think her trying to fight through this adversity while also trying to live up to the pedestal we put her on is commendable. For Ricky, I chose solid, because I think that pretty much fits the narrative. Sure, he's still winless, but he was close and couldn't quite pull it off once again, but he's still up there. He feels like every week he's in contention by the final round. He's only missed the top 10 3 times this year, with his worst finish being 38th at Waco. He's had 3 podiums, and he's constantly getting his name up there. No matter who, like where he finishes, we're always talking about him and how good he is. So there's been 9 unique winners already this season in MPO, and in February I would have assumed Ricky was one of them, but I think the fact that he isn't is just a testament to how competitive things are. And regardless, I'm not ready to count him out yet, and Kristen will get back up there too.
Yeah, my goodness. If you told me there was going to be 9 unique winners at this point and asked me to bet on Rick as one of them, oh my, would I have lost a lot of money on that one. Brodie, what do you got for us?
So I went a different route than you guys. I'm going from what they would describe their season so far. So
Fair.
with Ricky, I'm going to say frustrating. I think we can definitely see, yes, he is having a great season. Yes, he's been consistent. Yes, he's been all those things Hannah and Dustin explains. But I think Scotty Scheffler, I don't know if you guys, if you haven't seen it yet, check out Scotty Scheffler's latest interview. He talks about how interesting professional sports is, especially individual sports, because of how fleeting winning is. It's like the thing that you are constantly chasing. And then when you finally get there, you've got like that 2 minutes, 3 minutes of like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And then it immediately goes away and it's on to the next one. And he hasn't gotten that feeling yet at all this season. And so I can only imagine how frustrating that is to him, especially when he feels like he's been close multiple times. And it wasn't like someone else just outplayed him at the end. He's making mistakes towards the end of these rounds and not getting it. For Kristen, Dustin said the word. I'm surprised he didn't say this was the actual word, yips. She legitimately has the yips. There's a great video out there, which I think maybe Dustin was talking about, where it shows her putting routine now versus her putting routine a few years ago, or maybe even last season. And you can totally see that she is just not committed. She's not ready to pull the trigger. It's in her head. And the thing that's probably the scariest right now is the fact that not only is she telling everyone that she's putting poorly, if I remember correctly, I think when we've interviewed her and stuff, she doesn't practice putting. Maybe she needs to change. Maybe she needs to go out there and actually start practice putting. Because I can tell you right now, Holland Hanley's practice putting. She's not just showing up and getting a couple warm-ups and going out there and playing.
Yeah. The putts are a serious problem. I mean, just not even be able to putt to Evelina's average is that's a bad place to be. All right, Hunter, 2 more words for us. What do you got?
Yeah, so we'll start with Ricky. Yeah, he's been consistent. For any other player, he'd be great. Those would be some good words for someone that's not Ricky Wysocki. Instead, we're going with winless, because I think that's what defines it. That's the expectation with Ricky. That's the expectation with Paul McBeth. That's the expectation with Calvin Heimberg. And if you want to go here, if you want to get this far into the season and not have a win, I don't care that you're 3rd in the Pro Tour standing. It's a letdown if you're Ricky Wysocki. Good news for him. He's not quite at a full year, and the full year will come up at the Disc Golf Festival this weekend, which also would break his 7-year major drought. Bad news for him. The last time he went into a major drought, it's still going on, and we're almost in year 8. So that's where we're kind of questioning here, because what we're seeing is he's redesigning putters, he's redesigning approach discs. These aren't working, that's not working, this isn't getting PGA approved, whatever. And what that shows me is he has a lack of confidence in his game, and he's trying to reach for what it is. And yeah, he's finishing second, third, but how many times are we going to say this guy gets himself into a position to win, a guy who has proven he knows how to win time and time again, and he shoots himself in the foot, and we're just going to be like, oh, well, Ricky's consistent. Yeah, he's consistently losing is what Ricky's consistent at right now. And so winless is what I'm going for Ricky. Kristen, I'm going with slipping, because I think she's slipping in pretty much every single aspect right now. Yeah, she's got a broken toe. Yeah, she's sick. I'm sorry, her straddle putt, like, you can transfer the weight to the heel and you can make that thing work. It's a lot of spin. You're not missing a 15-footer at like pressure on the line because of a broken pinky toe if you're Kristen Lott. And all you got to do is make a few of them, not to mention her slipping forehands and all of that stuff, which she corrected this week. So I don't think that it's her injury anymore. I think it's between the ears. Yips, I think, is another way what Brodie put it. I think that's great too. So winless and slipping, those are my two.
Yeah, fair. I think fair to say. I totally agree. I think Ricky, like, that is how his season should be defined. I think Calvin's in a similar boat right now. Brodie?
If any doctors are watching this, please let me know if I'm incorrect, but I believe the pinky toe might be the most useless body part we have.
I know the big toe is very useful. I know you need a big toe bat.
I do know that like everybody's broken their pinky toe and nobody gets x-rays. Like,
if you lose your big toe, you like can't walk.
Can't balance.
Yeah. Like, you just can't walk. But I'm pretty sure if you lose a pinky toe, like, nothing changes. You can probably just fit into more shoes.
How did Kristen mess up?
It does affect your balance a little bit, but like not dramatically. Like, yeah, I mean, you're right on.
How did she mess up her toe again?
I don't know, but honestly,
I think she fell off a ladder last year.
Did she stub it? I thought.
Yeah,
she did. So like, is Kristen, like, is there a narrative forming here that she's like the most like not on course injury prone player of all time?
Well, here's the thing. I think almost everyone has at some point fractured their pinky toe.
Oh, 1,000%.
Like, there's been multiple times where it's like I can't walk for like a few days because I just did something really bad. But I'm not going to the doctor. Just eventually heals.
I mean, yeah.
I honestly feel like she should have took some time off before the back-to-back majors on European soil. Like, playing six events back-to-back
because you're trying to like recoup any momentum and confidence, but at the same time, maybe you just need to shut it down. Like,
I don't know. The thing is, if you choose to play, then you can't use your injury as an excuse. Right? Sure. Like Kobe Bryant tore his Achilles tendon, limped his way to the free throw line, but he knocked down the free throws, right? So if you're going to limp your way back to the course, the excuses are off the table. You chose to play. You had every right to not play. You could Silva and I got a fever, I'm sitting out, and we're not going to judge you for it. You might slip a little in our power rankings, but when you choose to come back, you're back. But if you say I'm back, you're saying I'm good to go, I'm ready to rock and roll, then let's rock and roll.
Does anyone know if she pulled out of the Superstar event today?
I'm not sure. I did see there was 3,500 people watching that thing on the grounds, which is crazy.
That is wild.
I think she might have, because the graphics that they showed on their screen there were adjusted, but the graphics in the corner of the DGN broadcast, those still had her name on when they were announcing the teams.
I'm still waiting for my entire social feed to get spammed with like the graphics of people walking onto that stage T-pad like it was last year. It hasn't happened yet, but like that was every post I saw for like 3 days. Like, can you believe they have a screen? Oh, thunder just absolutely
Stay inside.
Came through the mic.
Stay inside over there. Yeah. Stay out of it.
Dustin, don't you worry, man. I'm right here and I'm not going anywhere.
All right.
All right. Let's get into our last topic here for finals. This is a fan submitted topic. Pretty good question here. So somebody wanted to know, in the funnel of disc golfers, there's clearly a large drop off between casual players and DGN subscribers. If y'all ever get a chance to talk to the UDisc people, they have wild statistics on this that talk about like how many people play disc golf versus like really like are into disc golf. So a lot of people, probably ourselves included, focus on improving coverage to grow the sport, maybe bridge this gap. But is that really the best way to do so? How do we funnel more of the casual player into debate night, the depths, the deep, dark depths that is debate podcasts about our sport and coverage and things of that nature? Hannah.
Yeah, so improving coverage would certainly go a long way, and it is necessary for the growth of the sport to truly reach the upper echelon of where we want it to go. It has to happen at some point. But in my opinion, better marketing is really where professional disc golf especially falls flat, and why there's such a big gap. If with a few exceptions, I think most of professional disc golf is not very good with marketing, but especially DGN and the Pro Tour. Essentially, they're not good at selling their product to the public, and so many people, there's so many storylines in the sport that like they're not putting them out there or pushing them before events. Millions of people play disc golf, but DGN and pro media, they're not seeing those numbers. I played disc golf for 9 years before I even knew that DGN or professional disc golf coverage existed, let alone to the degree that it does. And I feel like we commonly, all of us probably encounter people at our courses and our leagues and our tournaments who love the sport and they're so passionate about it, but they just don't get the big deal or the hype behind the pro scene, or they don't feel it's very important to watch tournaments. And I feel that it's kind of a bit unacceptable for someone to follow professional sports, to follow social media, and to not see anything from professional disc golf. Like, what are we doing? There's so many outlets we could be using. So until that gets fixed, like, yes, the product needs to improve, but nobody cares if you have the best TV in sports history if they don't even know about it.
Yeah, completely valid point. Brodie, what do you think needs to be done to get more disc golfers into the sport, further into the funnel?
Well, the one thing I'll say with Hannah is I'll say I disagree a little bit, because I think it's easy when we're in the disc golf space to be like, yeah, we need to be like putting stuff out there for people to see that aren't in the disc golf space. And it's like, if you remove yourself from disc golf, like if you just unfollow all the disc golf accounts you follow, if you stop playing and everything, and then you go on social media, like you're never going to see disc golf. You just won't. And it's like that for a lot of things. It's really, really hard to kind of get into the main media world, right? And I think Sports Center top 10s, like that was a way to kind of break in a little bit back in the day, but now no one really watches Sports Center anymore. But I think the thing with disc golf that really is going to actually grow is like, you just need to build the numbers more, because I would consider myself like a casual pickleball player. I'll play it every once in a while. If it's there and it's happening, I'll do it. There's nothing pickleball can do to market me to pay attention to. No sort of Lance Armstrong phenomenon, nothing like that. Just because I personally think pickleball is kind of lame at the professional level. So there's no way for me to ever think I need to tune in to professional pickleball, where I might do that for another sport out there. If there was like a Tiger Woods or a Lance Armstrong kind of person, I might tune into that. So to me, I think disc golf is kind of maybe in that same realm, where a lot of casual players, they'll just never get interested in the pro side. And so instead of like maybe focusing on that, I think it's more focusing on the people that don't play disc golf at all, to try to get them to play disc golf. And then from there, maybe 10% like that. You see what I'm saying? Instead of trying to get those, I think it's just like, we have 1 million people playing disc golf.
Saying the funnel is what it is. We just got to get more people into it.
There's 1 million people that play disc golf. 10% are going to be caring about it. Okay, well, let's try to get 10 million people. Then we have 1 million people of there. I think that's the key, because I think it is what it is.
Yeah, fair to say. Fair to say. Hunter, do you agree with that, or do you think the funnel can be made to be better?
Unfortunately, I agree every single word Brodie said. So that's going to be tough for me to get points. That's how this show works. But no, I think that at the end of the day, like, we can try to improve coverage. We can do whatever. The only thing that could be done to genuinely grow, if we're just looking numbers, is make coverage free. That's the only, but then that would probably shoot ourselves in the foot, because how would coverage get funded? So I think that at the end of the day, it's what Brodie said, where you can play disc golf. You know, I think looking at cornhole was actually the one that came to my mind, where like everyone's went out and played cornhole, right? It's a lot of fun. You can play it a bunch. No chance, even if it's on ESPN, the Ocho, I'm not watching professional cornhole.
Not watching it,
because it doesn't look that impressive to me. right? And I think that's where disc golf falls in, is like you have to have so much context for what the players are doing to look impressive. Golf is a similar way for me. It wasn't until I actually went out and played golf a bunch and got a good understanding that I could see what they were doing. Oh, how are they making their ball go left? Mine always go right. I didn't know any of that, right? I think disc golf is similar, where like there's not ever going to be that level of knowledge or whatever to it, and so there's not much you can do to get someone who's just super casual to all of a sudden care about coverage. Instead, the percentages, it's like this in a lot of things, not just coverage, but there's certain things where like the percentage is the percentage, so you need to pump the numbers instead. Is kind of what Brodie had said, where like that is, I think, true in this case, where it's probably like, let's say 10% of disc golfers watch professional disc golf at some level. That number will probably be true 2 decades from now. It'll probably still be 10%. It's like, oh, all of a sudden these are getting millions of views. That's because instead of there being 5 million disc golfers, there's 30 million disc golfers. Right. That's more where like the Pro Tour should be focusing their time, energy, and effort. Problem is that's money you're spending today to reap the benefits of 10 years from now. And I don't think they quite have the money to do that.
Yeah. Valid points. Dustin, what closing thoughts do you have for us?
Yeah, so I mean, just kind of going back to the question, improving the quality of the product is great for retention and providing value for people who are already spending their dollars, but it's not really getting people through the initial barrier. And so that's really kind of a whole different topic, in my opinion. As far as increasing the DGN subscriber count, that's more about kind of either doing what Brodie said, where you're expanding your, reach into people who don't know disc golf at all and just getting them involved in the sport and then kind of following them that way, or you have to try to reach to your casual base better. And, one way you can do that is with, as Hunter said, getting rid of the paywall entirely, or at least use what content you have that's not behind the paywall as a better driver to get people to want to look at it. And whether that be expanding the free rounds of coverage, whether that be, pushing it more in your post-produced content or doing more content in general, I think that's one way to go about it. I think the creator challenge was a great initiative. Like, you're taking casual viewers who are fans of big personalities are in the disc golf space, and you are basically crossed them into the live threshold. And so I think more can kind of be done in that route. I think that's an initiative that should continue and can be improved and could be really huge. I think also getting into the grassroots more, because as Hannah said, there's a lot of people who play disc golf a lot but don't really know about the pro scene. And you have these PDGA sanctioned events all over the place. Why not give a month of DGN as part of a players pack item? Why not do different initiatives to get people through the door? Min Fits is with UDisc. That's a huge tool that a lot of casual players have right now. A lot of people are willing to spend money on that premium as well. Like, why are you not using these initiatives to help better link yourself with the casual base? I think is also another way to look, aside from also just reaching out to people who aren't a part of the sport at all yet.
Totally. Yeah, I think a lot of things with disc golf have to start at the most basic route possible. It seems counterintuitive to like put signs up, but legitimately, if you put signs on the most popular courses, you're going to probably get more valuable eye traffic than going to the social channels that people already follow and are already invested in, and people already know about the Pro Tour. If you're trying to get these people, the reason that disc golf has so many of these non-active players is because they're hobbyists who just show up to the course then go home. Like, there's nothing more about disc golf to them. Okay, I know I can find a disc at the store every once in a while, and I see courses here and there, but like, you don't have to dive any further into it. And if you're not somebody who's going to go up and search it on YouTube, because like that's your next best chance, that'll be it for you. So
can I ask 2 questions?
Mm-hmm.
It kind of goes back to what I said. Like, disc golf is a player only watching sport, right? Like, you and Hunter both run. We're not turning on the Boston Marathon to watch the Boston Marathon. We're not turning on
a lot of running content though.
But you're not watching like live,
but not
events.
Like live running. No.
Yeah,
I want to agree, but I did watch the end of the Boston Marathon.
But you're
wow.
but
that is unfortunate. Tough scene for Brodie. 2 for 3. 2 for 3.
That's a little bit tough, but you know what I'm saying. You're not tuning into the
people obviously will not. Yeah,
it's not the case for a lot of people. And then the question I have for Hunter: what is more impressive looking, a cornhole toss or a disc golf putt?
Oh, cornhole toss, smaller target. If it goes in the hole.
Yes.
Yeah.
It depends on obviously it depends on the length of the putt, but if it's the same length,
like a 25-foot putt.
Yeah, if you showed them next to each other, people would say the cornhole because it's just like your brain says that.
I think once you
crosses
watch both of
small.
those enough, they become so routinely made that both of them fizzle
I'm
out.
just
in the
wondering
end.
too, like the motion of a cornhole.
What's tough
toss
with
is kinda
cornhole
like,
is everything that cornhole players
Kinda
do
lame,
that's
kinda
insanely
lame.
impressive. You don't think they're trying it. They throw like the bounce shots and cut shots and stuff, and it just looks like things that happen on accident in
Got
your
lucky.
backyard.
Yeah.
But like
Yeah.
they're trying to do it.
But it's a similar thing to like, for perfect example, my son wanted to go play disc golf at my mom and dad's house. So he went on up there. He lost interest in about 10 minutes. He's, two
Did you
and a
tell
half.
about DGN?
Yeah, I did. Good point.
I mean,
But my dad picks up discs, right? And he's like trying to toss them back to the basket. And on his fifth throw, he throws in like a 150 footer. And I'm like though people have seen that happen, right? Where it's like, then when a pro does it, it doesn't feel all that impressive. Cause like that was my dad's probably like his 100th throw with a disc ever.
Yeah.
And he's probably made 7 of them from that distance. Cause it's like the basket's giant. Like if you're just chucking it and you're semi-accurate, one's going in. So like it doesn't feel that impressive. I mean, we just did a video, spoiler alert, came out yesterday. All 3 of us had to go get a hole in one on a course. Took us 2 hours. Like it's not that hard.
Well,
at the end of the day.
at the end of the day, getting the disc to go to propel forward is not that difficult. Like it's the difference between having to hit a golf ball off the ground with a club head that's away from your
but
hand.
I'm saying to your point of like my dad throwing that in was an accident, similar to I've probably done some sick stuff in cornhole, all an accident. There's a difference between my dad throwing a spike hyzer into the basket and a player trying to shape it around a tree and going to the basket, but the result was the same. So there's not that connect of like, yeah, I've done that before. He must have done that on accident because
There's
that's what
an
happened to
easy
me.
solution
versus
here,
I tried
guys.
to do it.
No one likes the baskets. You got Kyle Klein complaining about his manufacturer's baskets.
So crazy.
Let's just change the baskets to the post office drop off. And so now you've got a slot. Because imagine that you slot it from 300 feet.
People are freaking out.
People are freaking out if you slot it.
It's true.
And now you can say you slot it. That's like that just got slotted. That is such a cool way.
Might want to workshop that. Might want to workshop that. A little close to some other stuff.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Final topic: Hunter and Dustin. Dustin, you did win last, so do you want to go first or second?
I'll go first.
Yeah. Shocker.
Saw how that went. Yeah.
All right. We got another fan submission here. They got a little hypothetical for us. So. This fan said, if you were starting a brand new disc golf manufacturer today and had to create a player roster that consisted of 4 MPO players and 2 FPO players that you had to sign to 4-year contracts, who would you sign and why? And I guess with that second part of the question, let's assume that like money does matter to you. So like the 4-year contract. Well, you could answer however you wanted.
Okay.
Answer it however you want to. Doesn't matter. I love creative liberties. So go for it, Dustin.
Yeah, I took this as I have as much money as I want. I'm just trying to get the best I can possibly get. So first, I'm going to get Gannon. Obviously, you just can't beat the consistency and wins that this guy's getting right now. And I think over 4 years, he's just going to kind of keep at it and continue to improve. I'm also seeing him start to grow his media and the content that he wants to be involved in, whether it be tutorial content or being on podcast or just doing more stuff. So like, I think you can kind of craft, more branding and marketing around that. So not only his success on the course, but also getting his personality and quirkiness kind of out there more. I think I'd really like to build around that. Then I'm taking AB, super flashy, distance king, does all these crazy things. I also think he's just super marketable. His branding's really good. He's just getting his disc golf career started as well. So 4 years is totally fine with me as far as like just watching him grow and continue to play. And I just think it's exciting to watch play. I think it's kind of the other big thing. So that's kind of what I'm looking at there. Then this is a little bit more of a veteran move. But if you get Simon Lizotte, no matter how old he is, over the course of 4 years, he's just going to be huge for you because how big of his brand is, the content he puts out, the fact that he still can compete at a high level. And even if his play declines, he's still going to stay very active in the community and bring you a tons of value, even outside of competition. And then my last one, I'm picking Niklas Antila because he is the leader of the European market right now outside of Simon when it comes to the MPO side of things. And Simon is much more ingrained in the North American market nowadays anyway, due to how he's transitioned his lifestyle to the States. So with him being a very successful golfer, still very young with a lot of potential to grow, I feel like he does have a bit of personality when you do get to see him in some content. You kind of have to force it out of him a little bit, but I think he has like kind of like this funny, like kind of humor about him as well, like the awkwardness almost. So I enjoy it. And then when it comes to FPO, I'm taking Holland Handley. Even though she's not incredibly young, she's still pretty young in her career. And I think over 4 years, she's still going to be fine. I can see the drive. I can see the consistency. I can see the ability to contend now. And she does content. She gets out there. I think she's a great ambassador for the sport. And then finally, for FPO, I just didn't see a young player I wanted to gamble on yet. So I will just take Kristen because I think over 4 years, you're still going to get a ton of value out of her. Incredibly marketable, still a very good player. Think she will continue to be over the next 4 years. Great for building a brand.
Okay, definitely a pretty stock team, pretty safe team.
It's pretty
but
safe.
Makes sense.
The only one that was kind of out there was Niklas, I guess. But yeah,
the logic makes sense there. Hunter, any differences on your team?
Oh, of course, because the player or the question here made the mistake, and they didn't say Pro Tour. They said MPO, FPO. So first thing I'm doing business model wise, I'm going direct to consumer. I'm keeping as much money in my pocket as possible, and I'm going to the people that I think I can move the most plastic for the biggest bang for my buck. And those are the people talking to the people. So number 1 overall draft pick, I'm taking Joshua Miller, Sir J Millie. He does play MPO. I checked it on PDGA. Take that with if you want. And he's just going to be my main marketing guy. You know, he's going to get the shorts out there, the reels out there. We're getting millions of impressions. Best of luck paying Simon Lizotte millions of dollars for hundreds of thousands of impressions. I'm paying Jay Millie thousands of dollars for millions of impressions.
Oh, short
Money
change.
talks. Next, I'm going to go with Anthony Bedanza. You know, get a little Pro Tour exposure maybe, but hey, consistent upload schedule. So that's going to work out great. He's going to be on your screen Monday through Friday, right? If that dude's nothing else, he's a grinder. So I'm taking those two. Then I will dip my toe into the pro market. I do think that, you know, getting onto the pro scene is going to be important, but I'm a budget company, right? I'm trying to keep money tight. So I'm still in business 4 years from now and I can still pay these players. Dustin's the face of the next disc golf scandal. He's getting sued because he went out of business trying to pay Simon's contract.
Absolutely.
So I'm going Silas Schultz. Yeah, he can get in there, right? He's going to make some content. He's going to make me some sick reels that might pop off. And then, yeah, he might pop up in there, here and there. And then I'm going with the dark horse one, someone who I think could have a future in content that also top 30 player in the world, which is Paul Kranz. Some are calling him the Ryan Trahan of disc golf, mainly because of how he looks. But I think the guy also could have a future in content. Now, over in FPO, unfortunately, I don't have many content creators, so I'm just going to go young guns. I'm going with the next Kristen Lott. We're already done with Kristen. We're on to the next one, Silva Saarinen. Taking her. She's my European market pick. And then I'm riding with Caden Spurge. I think she can do it. You know, you got to be risky. I'm not spending a lot of money, and that's my team.
So your team is built on the idea that you're going to pay fractions to move fractions of what Dustin's team would
at
move.
A much higher profit margin. Yes. We just talked. The majority of disc golfers don't know the pro scene exists. So I'm going to them at their doorstep. I'm Jay Millieing them.
Yeah. Do you think like
then you picked an obscure pro player in Paul Kranz and then two FPO?
You think you did a run of like 150 Jay Millie discs right now that you would sell them?
Absolutely.
Oh, Jay Millie, yeah.
Yeah.
Not Paul Kranz. I love Paul Kranz, but
he's a future. He's a top 30 guy. I think I can get him. I think
you like almost had me there, and then you threw him in there, and it's like I like Paul Kranz. Paul Kranz Foundation guy. I like
4 years from now, you're gonna eat those words.
I hope so.
You're gonna eat those words.
Like I think that's a little outrageous.
That's fair. That's
but
fair.
I will give you were true to yourself, and you did not take great financial risk. It's
well, one of us wants to be in business, the other one wants to make a big splash and be gone, and so you got to choose. What do you want?
What
I feel like I have a solid 4 years ahead of me with that
in their
lineup.
wildest fantasies, like still has like the most reasonable like things because they're worried about like there's some sitcom that does that. Like Hunter basically just did that, where it's like his wildest dreams, and he's like, I'm gonna pinch pennies, and we're gonna get the most out of these players. Dustin was like, give me all the best players in the world.
Oh, do you want a chalk answer or do you want a good answer? That's what you got to decide.
Oh, a stock answer. I mean, I wanted
a chalk one or a good one.
Yours was more fun, but I feel like you petered out the last three players you named. Like I think you were on to something. Then the last three names you fired off, kind of like.
And I'm not trying to throw shade,
and Cadence Burge, give me two better in FPO. Kristen, you move on plastic year one. Holland Hanley, you better
Kristen
hope
would move more
her
plastic year
mental
one
demons
than
don't come
Cadence
back.
probably will in the next 4 years.
Mental demon.
What about when Silva turns into all it takes is 2 years of dominance?
I barely heard Silva say a word. What do you mean?
Silva's a great player, but
Kristen
didn't take interviews 3 years ago. Kristen refused to talk.
Silva's tough to market.
The memory of a goldfish with Dustin here.
Silva's tough to market currently.
Silva is tough to market currently. You know who's tough to market 2020, 2021? Kristen Tatar.
Well, it's Kristen Lott, first of all, and she's still insanely marketable.
2021, it was Kristen Tatar. Come on. I do my
Still
Past
insanely
tense.
marketable. Still insanely marketable.
do my
Are you
research.
allowed to do that? Like call them by their maiden name when you're past tense?
I don't know.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think you should.
In
Well, but you're
2021, she
referring
wasn't
to
Kristen
them
Lott.
in the present.
I'm
you
talking
probably
about a different person. Kristen Tatar, 2021, completely different than Kristen Lott,
Okay,
2025.
sick. Yeah.
Okay, he's going that route.
All
I like it.
right. Well, that was something. Dustin, you're our winner tonight. Good job.
Mhm.
Anything to add?
No, it's just good to be back, being
Go
involved
on.
with some disc golf media. Appreciate
Let
it.
me ask you a question, Dustin.
Go on.
Do you think, if you had to answer right now, will an FPO or MPO player win both majors? Will either one of the divisions see a sweep? No?
No. Don't think so.
I don't think so either.
That was
Does
an
anybody
easy.
think
That was,
Especially
that
with
was
how
an
soft
easy
this first
answer.
course
it's not
is for
really
this
a yes
first
or no.
major.
It's more of like what would you place the odds if you were a sports book? If it was
One in 50.
I think this first
50?
course is too easy. This first course is too easy. It's
One in
anybody can win this
50.
first course.
You think there's a 150 chance that an FPO player takes both majors back-to-back weeks?
FPO
No.
might be lower. I was just thinking
But
MPO
this
there.
is either division though. Will it happen in
Oh,
either division? I would
okay.
say like
It'd probably
1 in
be
20.
One in I was gonna say 25.
Yeah. I feel like with FPO in there, it's like
Because I'm with Dustin. I do think the first course will bring in not just for the MPO. I think it will bring in a lot of dark horse FPO players.
Absolutely.
it could. Well, we'll be talking about it in the coming weeks. Obviously, yeah, we've got a preview
just
show
hope
coming out
some
this week because the
rando wins.
major season is rolling in full
I
force.
can't wait till Anthony Bedanza wins Worlds. And if Anthony Bedanza
That would
wins,
pay off
I don't
big
even know if
for
he's
you.
over there. I get the win.
Yes.
Yeah.
Make sure everybody to tune in to all our shows
gotta make
going
some
on
calls.
next weeks because we've got a lot going on. Also, make sure to be on foundationdisc.com Friday evening at 5 p.m. Eastern for the Ace-a-thon drop. Make sure to be a part of that so you can submit an ace and win a grand prize. Check it all out on social if you're curious about that. If you want to submit a topic for the next coming weeks, scan the QR code here on the screen. We love getting new topics. We had 2 of them tonight. Great job submitting those topics as always. We'd love to see it. And have a great week, everybody. We will see you next time.